the Great Lakes converted over to B100 biodiesel made from Michigan soybeans. And it won a White House award. Number 3, using airline deregulation to create jobs in Illinois, and the winner is? Category 3, because of airline deregulation, we were able to save Chicago Midway Airport from being turned into a shopping center. Senator Percy testified at a House hearing, widely covered in the Chicago press. Senator Percy announced the creation of a new airline to serve Midway, which mentioned is no longer in business, but now Southwest flies in and out of there. And according to the city of Chicago, today Midway is the economic engine for the southwest side of Chicago and has created 90,000 new jobs and created an economic impact of $7 billion annually. Number 2, we're getting close to the end here. The Special ExxonMobil Performance Award. Number 1, organizing Biomass 2012 at the DC Convention Center. Number 2, managing to stay sober after separate visits as part of USDA delegations to vineyards and wine tastings in Hungary, Bulgaria, and Romania. By the way, all of these wines are for sale at Trader Joe's. They're all under $5. Writing over 5,000 memos, papers, studies over a 37.5-year career, equivalent to clear-cutting 1/100% of the Amazon rainforest, which under the indirect land use provisions of federal legislation means that ethanol production has to be reduced by 1/100%. The winner is Biomass 2012. Each year, the Biomass Technologies Office, I'm sorry I'm using the old name, organizes a conference. In 2012, it was held here at the Convention Center. Despite numerous bureaucratic roadblocks that resulted from the GSA scandal, the conference was a success. And Andrew knows this because Andrew was my partner in crime on this one. We had no plans whatsoever to hire a clown. We had no plans whatsoever to hire a fortune teller. That didn't make any difference. Or a stripper. None of that. Although we had a record attendance, but who knows? We could have had a lot more. So we attracted White House congressional staff, received coverage in the New York Times. And here's the real secret. I even saw the special bathroom set aside for President Obama and other heads of state that's hidden away in the bowels of the Convention Center. I am sorry, but I can't reveal its precise location. In category number 1, the King Faisal of Saudi Arabia Memorial Award. Number 1, interviewing Chicago mobster Alan the Red Dorfman 6 months before he was whacked, or as most people know, before he was gunned down. All he wanted to do was talk about his golf game, which actually, now, 30 years later, is really the lasting legacy that he left to me, because it's really helped my putting game. Successfully passing legislation to create an alcohol fuels reserve called SAFER, the farmers' answer to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and boasting the infant alcohol fuels industry when I was in the U.S. Senate in the last century. And the winner is alcohol fuels. We were 3 years after the 1973 Arab oil embargo, and Americans were finally ready for energy independence. We passed legislation to increase by 20% the federal highway tax exemption for a blend of 10% ethyl alcohol and 90% gasoline to produce a product then called gasohol. We held a hearing on the success of the Brazilian ethanol program after my trip there, with which Richard was all with me down in Belo Horizonte in Brazil. We held an alcohol tractorcade at the Illinois State Fair in Springfield. Production then was 180 million gallons a year. Last year it was 13.3 B as in boy billion, equivalent to all our imports from Saudi Arabia. It's now supporting over 338,000, almost 400,000 direct jobs and induced jobs across all sectors. Steel is in the ground for 4 new biorefineries, advanced biorefineries that my colleagues here, my former colleagues, are working on, so to be made from non-food substances. And so the industry, even though it's going through hitting some bumps right now, will bounce back, trust me. And the amount of oil that we're importing in 2008 was 60%. Today it's down to about 43%, and the Energy Information Agency projects by 2015 it'll be something like in the low 30s. So those are the 10 highlights. I just wanted to say whatever success I had, I owe to many people, but I wanted to mention my father. My father was worked in the city of Chicago as a public servant, and he got up very early in the morning, before dawn. He didn't return until dinner, and many nights he worked late because he had a passion for his work. He worked for former Mayor Richard J. Daley, and therefore the blue suit, because if you know Mayor Daley, the first Mayor Daley, he wore a blue suit every day. And so my father taught me something that he probably would have difficulty knowing or even pronouncing. He was a 6th grade dropout, and that was something called the work ethic. So that to really get anywhere in life, you have to be willing to work really hard. And my dad, blessed memory, he taught me the virtues of working hard. He would sometimes, 3 o'clock in the morning, he would get a phone call from a constituent who was in jail.